In today's episode of More Influence and Impact, we are going to dive into the world of tax planning and exploring strategies and the value that it can bring to your business. Our guest today is a certified tax coach who has a deep passion for education on the tax and financial side of business ownership and a strong background, multifaceted background. So I'm going to bring our guest, Kimberly Tara, up. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you. Now, Kimberly is a wife and a mom to four little ones
Yes.
and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And as a tax strategist and business growth advisor, Kimberly and her team partner with CEO mom service providers to build wealth through proactive tax strategy and ongoing trusting relationship with your CPA. So good.
Yes. So different from what we're used to in the CPA tax and financial world, right?
Yes. And that really stood out to me, the CEO mom service providers, because I meet with a lot of women business owners and, we're not really groomed, going through education and family taught about money. And
Mhm.
a lot of us, we get into business ownership and then it's like, whoa, money,
Yep.
tax, what's going on? Right.
Yep.
So you've really found a niche and a particular target market that you go for. And it also aligns with your values as a
Yes.
CEO mom.
Yes. And I think that was the thing, Celia, is that, and we're getting better, but my generation, the generations above me, we were kind of left out. And I shouldn't say we, because I realize how fortunate now that I wasn't left out as the female. I have a
Mhm.
brother. And so as the female, I wasn't left out of those conversations, but many women were left out of those conversations. It was for the boys, for the men,
Mhm.
right? The financial conversations were happening on the golf course or having a drink, right? And we're changing that. We're coming into this world of female empowerment and money mindset and girls coming and doing STEM in school just like the boys, right? And we are capable and we are absolutely worthy of being at the level of the men out there who it used to be all financial for them. And the reason that we even took it a step further, and look, we have clients that are just women, we have clients that are men. It's more about, I am passionate about educating the next generation, bridging these financial literacy gaps. You don't know what you don't know, but by educating our CEO moms who are bringing their children into the conversation, into their businesses, by educating these moms and setting them up for success and putting more money back in their pocket, we are directly impacting their families and their kids as well. And that is how we get better and better with each generation behind us.
So well put. Two stats come to mind that I've heard, and one I think recently was that 54% of all small businesses are owned by women.
That
And
really
so
increased since 2020.
really, so it's
Mhm.
continuing to go up more. So a lot of small businesses, and then women. I actually have a quote here from Ellevest that it says, "Nothing bad happens when women have more money." And Ellevest did a lot of surveys, and they're very much into
Mhm.
financial literacy and education. And they talked about how when women have money, they're more likely to put it into their communities,
Yes.
put it into their families, put it into their communities. So I really, resonate with that, with your mission about, that we're improving generations to come through
Yes.
women having more money.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
we're more of a giving kind, right?
Yeah.
And we want to pour back into our children and we want to help other women. And I think that not everyone, but a lot, at least the people that I'm surrounded with, we really believe in community over competition. We want to lift one another up. And if that means sharing our resources or pooling our resources, and that could be knowledge, but it also could be money. I feel like women are less like cutthroat, me, I'll stab you in the back. That's just not who we are. And so I think that we all rise together when we lift each other up.
I agree. I agree completely. So let's get into some of the good stuff, the nitty gritty
Yeah.
today, and let's talk a little bit about tax planning and really, how people can. Now, do you work with B2B only? Like, are you working with businesses? Are you working with individuals?
Yeah, so we are primarily working with business owners.
Uh-huh.
And that is only because the US tax code was really written for business owners.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, if you are just a W 2 earner, you're not going to have a lot of options available to you from a tax strategy perspective.
Mhm.
So that is why we do have some clients that are just high net worth individuals. Maybe they just don't want to deal with their tax return. But our bread and butter, who we truly serve and support, is B2B, because that's who we can help.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yes. And so really, like, how does, tax planning help businesses save money and maximize their financial potential?
Yeah. So tax planning, to me, and this is kind of how I look at it. Tax planning is, if you've been a business owner for even a year or two, you probably know about quarterly estimated taxes, right? That you
Mhm.
make 4 times a year. And so the way that I think about planning is, okay, last year I owed $80,000 in taxes. So when you divide 80,000 by 4, you get 20,000, right? So at
Mhm.
each quarter of the year, you need to send into the IRS, you need to send them $20,000 so that you're paying your taxes throughout the year. When we look at tax strategy, which is creative and proactively using legal and ethical IRS loopholes, what our firm is looking at is, we're saying, how can we reduce your taxable income? How can we get that 80,000 down to 60,000 or 50,000 or maybe even 40,000, right?
Mhm.
That is what we're doing with our advanced tax strategies. We want to keep more money in your pocket, because you are working probably really hard for that money. And I know
Mhm.
we're in this time of like, work smarter, not harder, passive income. But the reality is, you are working hard, or you have worked hard for the
Mhm.
money, for the revenue and income that you're generating. And we want you to keep more of it in your pocket, because just like you said, Celia, when we decide what we do with our money instead of someone else, good things tend to happen, right?
Mhm.
So that is what we do for our clients. And so you have just tax preparation, which is every year when either you DIY your tax return or you hire someone to put your numbers, right? We're going to be coming into the 2024 year, which means time to file 2023 taxes. But tax planning is that, okay, how much do I have to pay in? And then tax strategy is that next level of working throughout the entire year to say, what can I do? What can I take advantage of as a business owner so that I can reduce my taxable income and therefore reduce the overall amount of taxes that I have to pay?
Yes, yes. And I remember when I invested in tax planning, I have a accounting bookkeeper firm that I work
Hmm.
with, and they were looking at my revenue, and they said, "You know what, where you are with your revenue, you would really benefit from moving into an S
Yep.
corp, having tax planning, all of that stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, sign me up."
Yes.
And it has been totally a game changer for me in understanding my numbers
Hmm.
and just so many things. And so I remember when my accountant, she put it like this. She said, you see these big corporations, they're doing as much as they can to mitigate their tax. I know there's a technical
Liability. Yes. Their
liability.
tax
Thank you.
liability.
Yes, they're doing everything they can to
Hmm.
pay as little as tax as possible, and we can use strategies that work for your business and your income level so you can reduce your tax liability. And I thought, oh, like this is CEO stuff. Okay, like
Yes.
I'm in.
Yes, but the key there is, and that's why I love doing the tax strategy and planning, right? Because you got excited about that. You don't get excited about a tax return being prepared, right? Like,
Right.
you kind of feel like the IRS makes me do this every year and I've got to pay someone to do this because it's
Mhm.
too complicated and it's not something that is really in my zone of genius to be able to
Mhm.
do. But when we can tell our clients that we're going to put 60% of your tax liability back in your pocket, they're like, wow, that's incredible, right? And you can do so much, whether you reinvest back in your business, whether you fund your savings account, whether you hire a new team member. We've seen our clients do all of that with the money saved. But the key here is, you have to be proactively working on that all year long. You can't bring all of your tax information to your accountant in March, April, May,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden save for the last year. It's too
Mhm.
late. This is
Mhm.
something that you need to be proactively
Yeah.
working on throughout the entire year. And it's also very important that you know your numbers, right? That
Mhm.
because we don't do bookkeeping here at our firm, but we partner with a lot of bookkeepers. numbers. And because we really can't do our job well if you don't know your numbers, if they're not timely, if they're not accurate. And so it sort of all goes together into that CEO hat that you were talking about, with knowing your numbers, making data-driven decisions, and also being able to proactively strategize so that you can, put more money back in your pocket and pay less in taxes.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's just so many benefits to it. And so I know your clients, their information's confidential, so we're not going into that. But like, can
Yeah.
you share a success story where your tax planning strategies and things that you did with a client like really made a significant impact on their financial situation?
Yeah. So we had a client. So the great thing about tax strategy is if it's done correctly, it should work for the year that you do it in, and it should also work for future years to
Okay.
come, right? So we had a client, they were in about the 700,000 adjusted gross income, taxable
Mhm.
income range. And we were able to save them $100,000 a year in taxes. They were originally at 280, I want to say, and we were able to save them $100,000, and they were going to see that $100,000 in tax savings over the next 7 years, right? And the reason it was limited to 7 was because when we created this strategy and this plan for them, we were taking into account how long they were going to be continuing to work and
Mhm.
earn income at that level.
Mhm.
um Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, right? That was in 2018, and
Mhm.
it's due to sunset at the end of 2025, start of 2026. So we were taking that into account. And so, but they were going to save, it was actually $101,000 per year. So they were going to have $707,000 at minimum saved. So in the first year alone, they were able to fund more retirement for themselves as they were, starting to get a little bit older. They had 3 kids. 2 of them were getting really close to college, and they felt behind in their savings for these 2
Mhm.
kids to go to college. And then they had a third. They also finished paying off their mortgage on their primary residence. And that was all just in year 1. And they saw it, they keep seeing it year after year. So, that's an example. Of a client who's closer to that 7-figure range. But then we have a client, Lisa, she lets us share our name. Her name, she knows that we share. She was at 60,000 in revenue. After working with us, she doubled her revenue to 130,000, but decreased her taxes by 60% and went from paying 10,000 to 4,000 with more income, right?
Wow.
So there's just, so that's the thing. And that's why I say that, I don't really love tax planning courses out there that you can buy, because it is unique to you and your situation, right? Your business, your personal situation. And that's why we are a fully done for you firm, because
Mhm.
I do believe that each scenario, each situation is different. And we need to make sure that we're looking at you as a business, you as a person, you as a family unit, if there's a spouse or a partner that comes into the mix. And so every situation is unique, but there's always opportunity if you're working with the right professional who understands what they're doing and how they can strategize with you. And really, that's why we say that we partner with our clients, because it's a relationship. We work
Mhm.
together, and that partnership is what really allows us to have this huge benefit for our clients that a
Mhm.
lot of other CPAs or tax professionals don't have, because they're not taking the time to really get to know their clients,
Yeah.
hear what they say, understand their businesses. And it's all of that that allows us to be so successful in creating proactive strategies for our clients.
That personalization. I was having a conversation earlier today with a marketing expert, and we were talking about trends for, kind of looking at sales trends for the end of the year and going into 2024, and how personalization is so important. And I know that
Mhm.
you really pride yourself on building your brand at your firm around high touch, highly
Yes.
personalized experiences.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. It's funny because I thought, and I will say, like, I'm the numbers person, I'm not the marketer. And I've learned, like, as we've started dabbling in marketing for our firm a little bit more, that we deliver on the client side. Like, we're not as active on the marketing side, but the other firms, the louder marketers out there, when the clients actually start working with them, the experience is very lackluster because they're
Yeah.
putting all of their effort into marketing. So we have a 97% client retention rate. Our clients don't leave really once, we've had someone pass, unfortunately, someone's business didn't make it out of COVID. Like, those are somebody's friend became a CPA and they wanted to go give them support. Like, those are the only clients that we've really lost along the way. And so, it's the loudest marketers. They lure you in, but then they're not actually delivering. And I guess we're sort of the opposite. And they call it, what is it, USP, your unique selling proposition,
Yeah.
or whatever that is. I thought that it was, we save our clients tens of thousands of dollars in taxes every year. And while our clients do appreciate that and they do want that, with what our USP is that we really are partners who care. We are responsive. You're not waiting 3 months to hear back from us. And I can't tell you how many clients we have had on board this year who have waited 3 months for a response in an email or to have their tax return done. They can't even get updates on where their tax return is. And it's just unacceptable. And so the way that we treat our clients, the experience that we want them to have, the responsivity, the proactiveness, that's our USP. And that's how I built my business. We are very cognizant of that as we grow, making sure that we keep that in place, and that our growth doesn't get the best of us, because I can tell you I'm the type of person, we'll stop growing if it starts affecting our client experience, because that's not acceptable to me. Whereas I don't think that that's the mentality of a lot of other financial firms out there.
Yeah, kind of the churn and burn, or what was the other? There's another term that I use too. I can't think of it right now, but yeah, just that high touch, high attention, highly personalized. And there's a book that I read called Small Talk, and it talks about small talk. And I see you're writing it down.
Yep, writing it down.
It talks about how there's a part in it that talks about customer loyalty and how where if there's a business that you support where you feel like the people know you, there's small talk going on, that they're more likely to patronize your business. And it made me laugh because my husband and I we moved about 45 minutes away. We lived in a small town. We live in Milwaukee now. And so we lived in a small town called Hartford for like 11 years. And so we've been in Milwaukee now for almost 5 years, and we still drive 45 minutes to go to our dentist in our town that we lived in.
Yep.
We go to acupuncture there too, because like the dentist, they know us. They're like, we kind of stay connected with our lives there a little bit. And so that personalization, it just, especially in this technology age too, people want to be recognized and understood. And, they want to come in and know that they're going to be cared for. And, it's just so important.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like there was some point, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I had a business coach or something, and they were talking about efficiency, right? And being efficient. And so they were like, you need to cut the small talk and you need to be more mindful of your time, because like we don't bill hourly, but still time is money, I guess. And that it didn't feel good for me. I like asking them, how was your Mother's Day, when we get on a call the week or two after Mother's Day. I like hearing about their kids' Christmas performance, and they want to share and they want to talk about that. And I want to hear that. And I want to share my journey with them when they ask, my oldest has autism and he's high functioning, but we have a lot of challenges there. And, I've had clients send me a message on Instagram saying, this isn't about taxes. This is about my child. And I really, I could really use some guidance, and we want to be there for them. And we take a very holistic approach, right? Because all of that is so important to wealth building and generating wealth and just setting yourself up for full success using your business. And I don't know. I'm glad that in a marketing sense, we're getting back to that. And I have actually talked to a few peers, and they're all like, getting nervous because that's not what they're used to. I'm like, well, we are ready to shine because that is all we've done. We don't mass market on Instagram or TikTok. We are just genuinely who we are. We genuinely care. And it always pays off in the long run.
It does. It does. And that's the power of having a personal brand too, where you get to really show up. You have your expertise, and then you also get to show up as a mom and as a wife and with your interests and,
Yep.
however much or however little you want
All the
to.
craziest, because you know what? Those are usually, it's funny because I was very hesitant. My Instagram is like, I call it a landing page. I really just like the DMs, like being able to
Yeah.
use the voice
Uh-huh.
feature to send messages. And so I don't post very frequently, but usually when I do, sometimes it's tax stuff, sometimes it's mom stuff. And without fail, when I share something that's like very real or very funny as a mom, I always get the most replies,
Yeah.
like story replies, because people are like, me too, so cute, that's happened to me, oh no, right? Like, because it's just real. And I think
Yeah.
we're all over the fake. Like we've just had
Mhm.
the fake for so long and the highlight reel for so long, and that's just not me. And I think that that's part of why I've never been super successful on social media. But as we're coming into this day and age of more real, that's where, again, that's where it's just like, it's funny because I'll post something about taxes and I'll get one or two like, oh, that was helpful. But
Yeah.
man, you post something about like pulling poop off of something or another, and you've got all the responses of solidarity. Like, I've been there too. And, Godspeed.
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's so true. Those personal posts, like the business versus the personal. I had one recently that was about our birthday. My husband and I, we have a birthday 2 days apart. So it was kind of like the last like recap of birthday weekend or something like that. And I got more likes and hearts. It's like my highest trending post on LinkedIn right now. It got more hearts than I've ever gotten anywhere. And that's just because like people love that. And then when they see your business posts, they know, okay, like she's a mom, she's a wife, she likes to bike ride, she likes to hike, whatever. Like,
and we like knowing all that about our clients too,
we
right?
do.
Like, how can we connect with you? And we want, especially in the year 2023, as we have more women in small businesses, more moms owning small businesses, we are feeling the pull in so many different directions, right? And so I want moms to know that this is a safe space, that, if they need their 3-year-old to sit on their lap while we have a meeting, it's okay. Like, I've probably been there at some point too, right? And I know that your brain is capable of having a conversation with me if your 3-year-old is sitting on your lap. I want you to know that if you have to cancel last minute because your child is having an allergic reaction at school, like, I've had all of these happen, right? Like, I'm not coming up with these. Your child has an allergic reaction and you have to cancel 10 minutes before. Like, I got you. There is no judgment. I'm not going to be mad, but a lot of these women are coming from other firms, other professionals where that was a problem, where they wouldn't let them reschedule. And it's like, dude, I will drop you like it's hot if you think that there's a problem with me putting my family first. And so we need to give CEO moms this safe space to know that, like, even if you don't show up and I'm sitting here for 5 minutes, right? But you eventually get to me and you're like, I'm so sorry, there was an emergency. I don't care, right? Like, I'm not going to care, because I would do the same exact thing. And we need more safe spaces like that so that moms can be successful in business, but don't feel like they're having to leave their children and their family behind and they suffer.
Yes, yes. It's so true. It's so true. It's like kind of redefining how we see ourselves and that obligation and expectation to others versus like showing up for our families. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something you probably know, I don't know as well because I'm not a marketing person. But it was like, people buy from other people, not the businesses or whatever the product was. But I feel like it was that saying, like, people buy from other people that they, and it's not even the no, like, trust, but it's just like who you click with, who you like. I mostly buy from other moms, right? Like, that's just who's in my sphere, mostly women. And I think that, it's sometimes not even the tax side that our clients might connect with me on, but it's the kids side or the autism side or the travel side, right? It's so many other things. And I think it's so exciting that we're getting to this point in time where, because we believe in the connections and the right fit, right? There are other people who do exactly what I do out there, but it's all about finding the right fit, because these are scary conversations to have. Sometimes we have clients that, like, I have a client, she will type things into the chat on our Zoom calls because she has so much anxiety around saying it out loud. And so she's
Mhm.
like, I'm going to type that in the chat. Right. And we need to give to say, okay, type it in the chat. Right.
Mhm.
We need to provide more of those safe spaces
Mhm.
for these difficult conversations where there is no judgment. There are no dumb questions. We're here to help you and educate you. We need to have more of that because there's just not enough of it out there.
I agree. I agree. And I remember the term from earlier that I
Oh,
was
good.
going to say, cookie cutter.
Yes.
We're not using a cookie cutter approach.
Nope.
You know, because that's how, when we cookie cutter things, first of all, we treat other people like, oh, you have to go through my process and there's just this cookie cutter way, and then how we show up. So, and that was a prime example of just like allowing that your client in this case to just express herself how she needs to. And I think that that's where, more back to what you said at the beginning about the women having more money, you know, we get to drive how we invite other people to show up. And with our businesses, like, we get to give people permission to be themselves and express how they need to. And I believe that that's what our world needs more of, right? Is that more
I
of that,
agree.
like that permission to show up and be your true self. Because I know a lot of women that were kind of, you know, who they were natural personality wise. I mean, even for me, like super sensitive kid, crier, you know, and like really wasn't given a space to be that way. Right. So it's like, oh, she's this way or she's that way. Or, you know, so I had all these labels. It's like, I'm just like a sensitive, emotional person, you know, and it's just,
We have one of those children. And so
yes.
sometimes I'm like, Gage, I understand that this is giving you some big feelings. So I want you
Mhm.
to have your big feelings, but you need to go have your big feelings in your room.
Yes.
That's how we're doing it right now, so that
Yeah.
he can have and express his big feelings, but I don't have
Mhm.
his. He's kind of whiny more than
Uh-huh.
crying, and it gets under. I'm a very like suck it up
Uh-huh.
personality. And so I'm trying not to impose that on him or be
Yeah.
like, stop crying. So now it's, I want you to feel your big feelings, but I want you to go feel them in your room. And when you're done with your big feelings, I want you to let mommy know so we can talk about it.
Yeah. There you go.
So I'm trying to meet him in the middle with that, because I'm not sensitive and emotional. And so sometimes I'm just like, oh my goodness, we're on our fifth cry of the hour. And so I can't listen to this anymore. And so I'm like, I need you to go have your big feelings in your room. He's 5.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're
Oh,
trying to do what we can.
right, right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So I have a question that's more about your expertise. This just popped in this conversation.
Okay.
So I know that the tax code and all of that. I mean, I remember when they were revising it. Was it in like 2018? There was a
Yeah,
big.
that was Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2018.
Okay. And it was like a bajillion pages,
Yes.
exaggeration. So I know that like there's a lot. How do you keep up with that and continuously stay educated and stay on top of that and to keep your expertise
Yeah,
sharp?
it's a lot, and it's been a lot for the last 3 years. So we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2018, and then we had all of the coronavirus, you know, that
Ah,
legislation that Congress started putting out. And as they were putting out relief, some of that was being seen in the tax code, right, with our
mhm,
recovery rebate credits and everything. And so this is actually one reason that I don't love all in one accounting shops where they do the bookkeeping and the payroll and the tax prep and the tax strategy and the CFO. And that's only because all we do is tax strategy
mhm,
and then tax preparation. And that's the only continuing education that we are keeping up with at our
mhm,
firm month over month. So unless an accounting firm is big enough that they have multiple departments where people are only focusing on one thing, I believe that it is humanly impossible to serve your clients and keep up with all of these changes, especially that we've been having in the last 5-6 years, right? So I would say I have about 60 continuing education hours every single year that I'm
mhm.
getting through various sources, either the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I'm also a certified tax coach. So that comes from the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. Our software has continuing education. So we are always spending time. So that's about 5 hours a month, right? About an
Okay.
hour a week. Many of my fellow practitioners, I say this lovingly, are cramming in their 20 to 40 hours that they have to get
Mhm,
minimum each year. They're cramming them in every December. And I just, we value education and training and knowledge.
mhm.
That's a very big important value that we have here, our high standards. And so that is how we keep up, right? So, we're constantly reading, we're constantly keeping up. Like right now, that Corporate Transparency Act that's coming out, we are in full swing of analyzing that, making sure that the sources that we're being given, how do we best advise our clients on that, right? Like I'm not ready to talk about that on today's episode because we're still doing our due diligence. And as practitioners, we are still like, okay, so are the attorneys doing this? Are we doing this? Like, what are we all on the same page, right? Are we charging for this? Are we not charging for this? Are we, so it's all of those things. But that is why we are a quality over quantity firm. And we leave plenty enough space, not only for me, but for our team members to make sure that they're staying on top of everything so that we are bringing them the latest, greatest, best practices and strategies that we can.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I'm glad that question came up because
I've never been asked that before, but I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I, coming from like a thought leadership expert type business for myself, and we have a lot of thought leaders, experts. I mean, that's pretty much everybody that we have on this show. And I find that when someone is like, they align with something and then, it's easy for people to kind of like rest on their laurels and what they know, right? But continuously keeping sharp and proactive because you want to versus because you have to. And I think that you really painted a great example is like, we value this. We invest in it. We dedicate time throughout the year versus the cramming in the last minute. And I think that that's really what makes a business, set up for the long haul with those strong foundations is that we're continually developing and we're staying on top of things. And as our world and our economy and everything continue to evolve over time, that sharpness is what's required, I think, to keep our businesses relevant. So
absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I think, and look, a lot of our clients bring us things in and we've experienced everything that we need to guide them through or strategies that they might use. But every now and then we have somebody ask us a question. And it's like, ooh, that's a great question. Let's dive in. Right. And like, that excites me. It's like, ooh, let's figure that. We're actually doing that for a client right now. Something that's very unique to them. And I'm like, ooh, let's research this and do it. Right. And so I think it's that love of the challenge that comes into it. We love figuring it out and we just love doing as much as we can, as best as we can for our clients. And so that's really, that's like you said, cookie cutter. I've learned, I was at a conference recently and somebody was talking about, we all know, we all don't know, but there's something called the Augusta rule. And that is where you can rent out your primary residence for up to 14 days and you don't have to claim it as income. And so she was like, oh, and she's at kind of those one-stop shops. And she was like, oh, and they're going to give me $500 a day for 14 days. And I was like, $500 a day? That's it? We have a client. So I was like, okay, so that's really only going to be like $7,000 max. I was like, we just got $35,000 for a client with their 14 days. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yes, you have to be proactive and creative and you have to follow the rules. But if you do it in the right way, yes, we just got her 35,000 and you're getting 7. And that's great. That's awesome that you're getting 7 because that was 7 that you never got before. But how do we do better? How do we deep dive in? Because to me, 7,500 a day, that's cookie cutter, that's safe. How do we take it up a level, right? And really dive into deep strategy and advanced strategies so that we can get our clients $30,000, $40,000 a year.
Wow. I have to go and look at that because I'm not even paying myself $500 a day for the Augusta
ask about the, do you use
I have
the Augusta rule?
Okay. Yep. I have the Augusta rule.
It's all about how you use it, right? Okay. And so you need to make, again, you're following all of the IRS rules. It's just, it's how you sort of work backwards. It's the creativity. And that's where my brain shines, right? Is it's like, okay, tell me everything and then let me absorb everything. And here's what we're gonna do, right? And of course, our clients, need to understand everything that we're doing and they need to be on board with it. But most of them, when you tell them, I can get you 30,000 and you're at a 40% tax rate, well, I just saved you $12,000 in taxes. Right. So most of them are on board with that pretty quickly. Yes. Well, this has just been an awesome conversation. It was so fun to talk about,
highly personalized client journeys and client experiences and taxes and money. So this was a great show. And yeah, thanks for coming on today, Kimberly, and sharing
Oh,
your
thank you.
expertise.
No, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate when others are willing to bring these, taxes don't seem sexy. Tax planning doesn't seem
Yeah.
sexy. And a lot of times we're used to old boring dry CPAs, saying don't spend so much or do this, right? And so I'm here. I'm so passionate about the education, but making it easy to understand and fun to listen to, right? So that, we can kind of change the game on, how we view our taxes and finances and really prioritizing them as CEOs.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I love to bring in all the different, different thought leadership, and because it's not just sales and marketing that make a business. I think people get kind of fixed on that. There's so many other components to it. So
Yes.
thank you for that. And thank you everyone, to all of our listeners and viewers. Until next time, this is Celia